Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and the fallout to the most recent episode of Rings of Power Udon is far less than I would have expected, at least from the mainstream and access media sites. And by that I mean the cope isn't running as much as it was with the previous episodes. Back in the day when the first or second, third episodes came out, there were dozens upon dozens of defense articles coming out that were just sucking the dick of Amazon for this show, and it was no problem trying to find some golden articles with some insane takes throughout the entire internet. But that seems to be decreasing as the mainstream and access media sites aren't talking about it all that much. I had to really struggle to find any good things worth talking about from the article perspective. Are they just kind of giving up, realizing it's a bad show, or is it the whole thing where everything's just in these people's minds for a short time? They are living like Dory. They have to forget it as soon as things are over, and then they're just gone forever. And we've seen that before with some of the other shows and movies to come out that were so heavily defended. Best thing ever, best thing since the last thing. And then a few months later, it's like, oh yeah, that came out. Did I actually like that? I can't remember. It's a very common thing that we've seen, and it seems like it's already happening for Rings of Power while the show is going on, because it was just so boring and so bad. But this episode in specific, I thought it would be better than the boring ones of the past. I thought it would be better than the terrible dialogue of the past episodes, which usually affect me the most. But this episode had action, and this is the one that I hated most. God, I hated this episode. Every decision made was by an idiot. Nothing made sense. Nothing lined up. The action was mediocre at the very, very best in a few instances, but it was just overall really bad. They abandoned their tower, their fortified single entry point tower, for a village in the middle of a field where orcs are just like circle around and fire like flaming arrows at the thatched roofed buildings. It was incredibly idiotic, the decisions made, and then the Numenorians just teleport in to save them, and then the volcano goes off in a stupid way. But whatever. So I want to see what defenses these very, very few people can say about this show. And this first one, I just want to point out because it's kind of funny that they unironically slam all the other characters in the show. This article from Polygon says the Rings of Power's best character showed up, kicked ass, and died. This entire article from Pete Volk is just like cooming all over this guy's image, the big orc. They're just like, they want to marry this man. It is really funny to see them just drooling over this orc, and it's like, he's the best character. They say that like 3 or 4 times, and that's unintentionally bashing the show. They think it's pro show and be like, oh, the coolest character, oh, that sucks. But they're saying that, oh, the other ones are shit because he's so great. It was just kind of ironic how in defending the show, they're actually criticizing the character development and the characters themselves, which I have major issues with. None of them are actually realized characters, 3-dimensional characters. I mean, Arondir, who was in this scene as well, he's a block of wood, and that still makes him one of the best in the show. At least he's not evil like Galadriel. And with talking about the orcs briefly, I do want to mention why Galadriel is evil. Now, this is something that people have said in the woke sphere and Hollywood and whatnot about orcs that I think is absolutely insane and shows that these people are way more racist than they realize. But there's this big movement the last few years to say that orcs are actually a metaphor for black people. That is insane. That is wrong. If you see that, there is something wrong with you in the head. But these types of people, they made that connection. And then they had the big hero of their show threaten an ethnic cleansing of orcs, genocide of orcs in an interrogation. If your little connection holds ground, which is insane, but let's say it holds ground, your main character is a triple K god for what she wants to do. Yeah, not a great message to send after making this big deal about this insane comparison. Yeah, woke people should be up in arms about that, but they gotta love the show because it's diverse, everyone. It's diverse, so it's good. Very inconsistent and hypocritical, but just something briefly to mention. And then I've also got this article from Game Rant that came out very recently, an hour ago, and it's not great. It's not technically about this episode specifically, but it's about why Peter Jackson not being involved was actually a good thing. And it's a terrible defense of this because, yeah, as we knew from a recent Peter Jackson interview, he was approached to be on the series. He expressed interest, and then when there was some, changing around about who was involved in the show, they never got back to him and he was ghosted. And I think that was a massive mistake because you need someone who knows this world because it is a very difficult world to adapt. I would never trust myself to adapt this world. Other worlds, absolutely. Doctor Who, I jump on today. Lord of the Rings is just such a broad world that I just could never know enough to truly be immersed in the world and accurately adapt it. And that's something that's important to me. So I wouldn't feel comfortable doing it. Peter Jackson, he knew this world and loved it enough that he was able to. And so experts like him, like Tom Shippey, but we know how that turned out, were essential to making this show good. And they ghosted one and fired the other. Great track record. But this article just kind of defends, they're different. One's a book, one's a history, so they're different. And he just spends the whole time comparing the two, but there is one specific line I do want to mention here. Near the end, he says, ultimately, the changes that were made in Rings of Power that make it different from the Peter Jackson trilogy, ultimately, those changes still pay tribute to Jackson's impact, contribute to diversity, and allow the series to avoid legal issues. Yes, the legal issues, we know they have to change things like 25%, but the fact that they changed things from Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings allowed them to be a diverse show. That is an insane thing and is really an underhand insult at Peter Jackson for not being diverse, and they had to go away from his show to be diverse, his movies to be diverse. That is a horrific thing to say, and that's basically the only actual defense that they have beyond listing things that are different about these two shows. It's a poorly put together article that is just ultimately nonsense and really shows an innate misunderstanding of this world and what makes the Peter Jackson movies good and this show horrific. But lastly, the thing that I hated most about this show overall, and this episode had it really, really bad as well, is they don't understand the passage of time. Now, when it's a single storyline with a single group of characters, you can fudge a little bit and say, yeah, they were traveling for a couple weeks, don't really know how long. That's totally fine. But the fact that they have all these multiple storylines happening concurrently, as marked by the Meteor Man showing up at the same time for all of them, that connecting tissue means that these have to happen parallel to each other. But they're not, and they're not even trying to be. I mean, Elrond goes back and forth between Aragion and Khazad-dûm at will, and Lindon in the later episode. The Harfoots all over the place, and in this episode, the Númenóreans, they don't just cross an ocean, but they also sail one day upriver and one day by land to get to Arondir and the humans in a 30-hour time span for the humans. Yeah, 30 hours versus a couple weeks. Yeah, that lines up. But there's actually a quote here from Disbrew's Twitter that has the showrunners talking about this issue, and they don't even realize it's an issue. So I want to listen to this real fast. It's only 6 seconds. So he's talking about the Harfoot migration.
By the time we see them in this scene, the strangers traveled with their migration, which could have been possibly a couple of weeks. By the time we see them in the...
They don't even know how long this migration was. And it's a couple weeks, but a couple days for Galadriel and the Númenor. That is writing 101. If you're doing multiple storylines and make them connect, you gotta make sure they connect and follow in a logical manner. Time and space mean nothing in the show, and the only way that any of this could possibly make any sense is if Amazon and Jeff Bezos believed.
It's taken me all these years to realize the laws of time are mine, and they will obey me!
These people don't understand the passage of time, and like I said, they specifically say in the episode that it will take one day by land and one day by horse to reach Arondir and the humans in the Elven Tower, not the town that they suddenly find for no apparent reason. And that's not even including the time that it spent to sail from Númenor to Middle-earth. There's no way they would have gotten there in the 30 hours that it took for Arondir and them to be attacked, run to the village, be attacked again, and nearly die. But let's listen to this just to...
It's a full day's sail into the mountains.
And from there, another day's ride east into the Vale.
Signal the other ships.
They said it there. One day upriver, 1 day across. Now, I do have to make a clarification. In my review, I said it was 2 days upriver. Got that wrong. Point still stands. It's way too long for the Numenorians to get there at the same time as the humans and Arondir are about to die. They don't care about the passage of time. They're inconsistent on what it means to be an orc, whether or not they're morally gray like they've been portraying them in this show, or entirely corrupt. And now they're just letting Access Media bash Peter Jackson, saying, we had to go away from them so that we could be diverse. This show is broken. This last episode was the worst yet, and the utter stupidity of these writers and producers, showrunners, directors, choreographers, all of them is very apparent in this episode more than any other, and I just can't believe anyone can genuinely like this film. If you like flashing lights, there's more quality of writing to be found in the Fast and Furious movies than there are in this, and Fast and Furious movies knows what it is. This wants to be all deep like Tolkien, but it's coming off as Fast and Furious, and that's the problem, is the inconsistency in intention and execution, making it a garbled mess. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Unknown. If you like what I do here and want to see good, compelling stories that Hollywood will no longer give you, check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues. Books 1, Down in Flames, and Book 2, Apocalypse Then, currently on sale. Book 3, Kill the Dark, coming soon.